One of the hardest parts about creating content for YouTube is writing a good hook. And it's because it is so important because you have your title, your thumbnail, and your hook as the three main elements that if one of those breaks, your video might just go nowhere. And it can be the difference between 10,000 views and 100,000 or 500 and 5,000, depending on where you're at. And I'm going to show you how to write YouTube hooks using AI to sound like the top 1% of creators in your voice. And it's going to be completely free, and it's going to be the way that will change the way that you look at hook writing forever. So I'm going to use a quick example. Ed Lawrence, who I think is the absolute GOAT at YouTube education, has a lot of good videos because not only does he talk about hooks in certain points, but he also practices what he preaches. And his hooks are so well formatted that every sentence has a purpose. And it's going to be one of the best examples we can use because all of those will make this example so much clearer so that you can understand how these hook formats work. So you're not just getting to write AI, you're also going to get a little bit of understanding so that you can fact check these. And that way you're not relying 100% on AI. You can use a little bit of your thoughts there. And all you want to do is you want to click and you want to share these videos. And you want to put those in and add them. Now, I normally go for about 25 to 30. If you're just getting started, you can put 10 to 15 in, get an idea of how it works, but 25 to 30 is normally going to give you enough. And all this is doing is it's pulling in the transcripts. It's not going to analyze the video or things like that. I can show you how to do that for free as well. But this one is meant to analyze the transcripts. And since we're working on hooks, this is the one that's going to give us the information that we're working for. And all you got to do is add those. All right, so all we're trying to do is analyze the structure of the way these hooks are working, and then we want them to write like us. So this is the prompt, which you can find in the description below. Study the opening hooks from the video sources from, and then you put that person's name in. Now, if you have already put your videos in and their videos in, I actually like a prompt here at the beginning that says, hey, identify the creators of these videos. Now, I would say focus on one creator plus yourself. Don't try and do a whole bunch at once. That can cause problems and there's really no need to. And you say, hey, analyze this, and then you can go that. Now, you can turn those on and off. We'll talk about that later. But we want to make sure that it identifies both of them so that when we use that person's name, it makes it a lot easier. And so we're just going to put this in and say his name, and it's going to be able to identify that. So study the opening hooks from the video sources from Ed Lawrence. The hook is defined as the opening part of a YouTube video, and it leads all the way until they start talking about the first talking point. Now, if you're writing hooks on YouTube, this is just a little pro tip that stop writing until you tell people what's in the video. Focus on that 1 to 2 sentence connector to the first part of the video, because that way you get out of like those bad CTAs, you avoid that little drop off, and you don't let them off the hook because you're hooking them at the end of the hook. And that's what we want to do. NotebookLM has a tremendous output limit that it can do. And we're just going to put this in. We're going to hit send and see what it comes up with. So this is the output that we get. And we get a full breakdown on 10 effective YouTube hooks, hook from, and it tells you what it got it from. Now, if you've never used NotebookLM, one of the best things about it, if you're using it for research or anything else, is that it uses citations so that you can actually like see where it's pulling this information from so you can fact check it. You can also click. If you're using transcripts from YouTube videos, good luck with this. If you're using other things, it might be a little bit easier to read. For transcripts, you're not going to get much there. So just hover over those things and it'll tell you where it's at. But it breaks it down, the hook and the text transition. So what does that look like? We get the hook structure. So it's credibility stacking, so metrics and achievement, a universal problem, struggling channels make common avoidable mistakes, and a solution promise, 19 lessons that actually make money. Now let's move down to another one. We get something similar. So we get a direct question that challenges the assumption. Again, very strong format. Bold answer and a thesis, benefit stacking. So a new method delivers maximum value, grows business, is easier, and is cheaper to outsource. And the contextual setup. And so what does that look like? So it gives us a hook format. So we have a name for it essentially. And you might be wondering, what do we do with this? And so we have the establishment of mistakes. We have the language usage, so we understand, and the effectiveness of it. Why did it work? So if you want to learn about it, this is what's great, so that when you're writing those hooks, you understand what each part means. Now, the worst part about NotebookLM is if I hit the refresh button, all of this information goes away. There's no saved chats. It's not like using a ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini where it's going to save the conversation. Now, the cool part about NotebookLM is you don't have to worry about losing the conversation because you don't care about the whole conversation. You care about the good stuff, and the good stuff might be educational for you. So there's a button at the bottom that says Saved a Note. We're going to click that. It's going to create a note on the side. And this makes things a lot easier because now you can refer back to this and you have it as a note forever. Now, there's actually something that you can do as another step, which is now the pro tip that I don't see anybody talking about this one. This is what's crazy to me, is that, well, we have those hook formats. What if we just got a bunch of hook formats? So instead of 10, we had 20 or 30 that we just kind of developed over time. Well, you can actually click on the 3 dots here and say convert to source. And so now we have that as a document in our sources. So later when I come in here to write hooks, I'm going to turn off all of Ed's videos. I already learned from his. I don't need to save those anymore. But I can turn on a source, and then I can turn on my sources of information. So I say, hey, I've got the hook formats and we understand how to write them and we have examples of them. So now we don't need these old videos. So we don't have to repeat this process every time. So we just have the hook format saved. So I can come back in here and say, hey, here, give me 10 hooks written using the anatomy of effective YouTube video hooks. You could rename that if you want. And say, use this as the source for like how we want to do it. And now output me 10 hooks written based on this information. And that's how easy it can be to save this information so that you can come back to this notebook and it's there forever. But don't worry, there's actually more that you can do with this to make this even easier. So I pre-prepped this one, and the next hook is I want it to write like me. Now there's two ways of doing this, and you can explore the other ways if you're using research somehow, but one of the easiest ways to do this is using the hook structure and formats you just analyzed. Use the source, YouTube, search into that's the doc. So I say use this source. And you have to make sure it's turned on. In channel authority, and use Google Doc as the source information to write hooks in the voice style, tone, and language of the source doc, but in the format, structure, and transitional style of the analyzed hooks. You could probably make that better if you want, but all we're doing is saying, take what you just learned and write it like me, because that is a transcript from a video that I've made. And what that looks like is it's just going to show you what those hooks are. So now we have those hooks that we just broke down and learned from, and now it's going to rewrite those hooks for me. And so all of the stuff that we just learned, we now have that. Not only that, but it has our transitional statement as well. So we get a full hook. Now you can expand on this. You can tell it to write more or less, all the instructions that you want, but this is kind of like the baseline to where you can use this tool. And so now we have all of these hooks written exactly in the style and format of ones that we know are proven and work. And now we have it written in my language. And that's the beauty of NotebookLM. Now, what happens if you don't have a bunch of transcripts? And I don't want to do that. So you have your own YouTube channel. What you can do is, like I said at the beginning, you can add all of your videos or 20 of your videos so it understands your language. It can even be 10, because at that point, there's enough words that you've written or spoken that are going to be there. And so now you're just going to say, hey, use the sources. Now, remember earlier I said, hey, specify at the very first prompt, like identify the creators by name so I understand that you have each one of them. And so the way that sounds now would be using the hook structure and formats you just analyze, use the source YouTube videos from Josh Howard and write 10 hooks in the voice style, tone, and language of the source videos, but in the format, structure, and transitional style of the analyzed hooks. So it's just going to say, all right, well, I'm going to go look at those transcripts now from Josh. I already know how this works for the formats. And now I can use that language from those 10 videos of yours that are there, and it will understand exactly how to write those in the formats of your favorite creator or somebody that you're trying to emulate. What you're going to think next is very straightforward. How can I write full scripts with this? Well, the best way is to iterate on it, but there's actually a completely better way if you actually truly want to one-shot a prompt and get a script out. There's actually a way that, again, nobody's talking about. It's actually not using NotebookLM, and it's not using Claude, and it's using a format that most people just don't want to believe is true. So if that's a video that interests you and you want to see that, feel free to drop a comment in the description or hit subscribe so I know that you want to see more content for YouTube, and we'll go from there. But look on this channel for more information about YouTube, but also how to generate stuff with AI for content on YouTube.